your parenting.
Dr. Jessica Peck is a pediatric nurse practitioner as well as a professor, author, and mother of 4. Dr. Peck is host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, weekdays at 2 p.m. Central, and find her podcast at afr.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton. An immigration attorney thinks it was a great move for President Donald Trump to dispatch border czar Tom Homan to Minneapolis to oversee ICE operations in the violence-torn city. More from AFN's Chad Groening.
President Trump says his border czar will take over the day-to-day immigration and customs enforcement operations, replacing Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, who drew condemnation for claiming the man who was killed by a Border Patrol agent, Alex Pretty, had been planning to, quote, massacre law enforcement officers, a characterization that authorities had not substantiated. Art Arthur is a resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies. He says in Holman, Trump is sending in the A-team.
The president has taken a look at the facts, taken a look at what people are saying, including members of his own party, and he's decided to send in the A-team. Sending the border czar to Minneapolis shouldn't be viewed in any way as any reflection on Chief Bovino's actions. Shouldn't be viewed as anything other than an attempt by the Trump administration to gain complete control over what proven to be a rather crucial operation in Minneapolis.
Arthur says Bovino is going to return to his old job.
Chief Bovino is being sent back to fulfill the role that he's been given, and that is as Border Patrol Chief in El Centro. That shouldn't be viewed as a reflection of anything that Greg Bovino has said or anything that he's done in Chicago or Minneapolis or anywhere else. That's his job. It's a crucial job. It's a very important sector, one that sees a lot of alien smugglers, drug smugglers, cartel activity, and it's crucial that he be back there.
I'm Chad Groening.
President Trump was in Iowa today to talk about affordability. Before his speech, he spoke to Will Cain of Fox News. Cain asked him about the situation in Minnesota and border czar Tom Homan.
We have Tom Homan there now. We put him in there. He's great. And they met with the governor, the mayor, everybody else, and we're going to de-escalate a little bit.
Cain also asked him about the concern some Iowa farmers have about tariffs on the agricultural industry.
China would charge us tariffs. Other countries would charge us tariffs. I've totally reversed it. Japan gave us $550 billion. South Korea is supposed to give us $350 billion. But what happens is they're coming in, they're building plants, they don't have to pay tariffs. If they don't do that, so what's happening is we're getting a tremendous amount of business coming to this country, and they're coming in fast and sharp. I think the farmers are going to be the biggest beneficiary, because when you used to have people coming in and dumping their crops into the United States and you guys were hurt, they're not allowed to do that because we're tariffing those crops.
He went on to say farmers will benefit from the tariffs, but they just kicked in. Tragic winter storm-related news out of Texas as 3 brothers, ages 6, 8, and 9, died after falling through an icy pond across the street from a house where they were staying, according to authorities. The Fannin County Sheriff's Office said that the brothers fell into a pond yesterday north of Bonham, near the Oklahoma border. And some residents are still without electricity and are also facing falling tree branches that are taking power lines down with them in the aftermath of the winter storm. Fox Weather's Sarah Allegre is in Nashville.
The Tennessee Department of Transportation reporting 300 downed trees that they've cleared throughout the area. Power outages, that of course is something plaguing residents really across Nashville as they continue to deal with the bitter cold as we experience here. Now, the NES, the utility company responsible for getting the power back on here, they're reporting just around 100,000 customers. They've been able to restore power. But the concern is as those trees continue to come down, those power lines come down with it too. So maybe some restoration is made and then we're right back to square one.
Stocks into the day mostly up following mixed profit reports from United Health, General Motors, and other big companies. The Dow lost 409, the S&P added 28, and the Nasdaq rose 216. And that will do it for news this time around. We invite you to go to afn.net and you can see a whole lot more there. And we do thank you for listening. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
The biblical principles our nation was founded upon are under attack.
They're trying to change the whole course of our understanding about the way things are about our own country.
Sandy Rios.
They're trying to untether us from our Constitution and certainly from our God.
Trust Sandy Rios to bring you unfiltered, insightful commentary from a Christian worldview. Find her podcast titled Sandy Rios 24/7 online at afr.net.
Darkness is not an affirmative force. It simply reoccupies the space vacated by the light.
This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
It should be uncomfortable for a believer to live as a hypocrite.
Delivering people out of the bondage of mainstream media
and the philosophies of this world.
God has called you and me to be his ambassadors, even in this dark moment. Let's not miss our moment.
And now, the Hamilton Corner.
And this is Bishop E.W. Jackson sitting in for Abraham Hamilton III here in the Hamilton Corner. Great to be with you today. Thank you, as always, for all of your prayers, your support, your contributions, all that you do to make AFR possible and to make the entire network, the family of organizations associated with the American Family Association. Appreciate you. God bless you. We couldn't do it without you. So by the grace of God, we will continue, and thank you so much for walking with us through it. We got to save this country, folks. It's clear, as I've said many times, President Trump is not the savior. I mean, he's doing a tremendous job in my view. And I really mean that, folks. He is doing a tremendous job, but he's not the savior. It's going to take the people of God praying and believing and working continuously even after President Trump is no longer in office in order to help save this country, because our problem is ultimately not political, it is spiritual. And you solve the spiritual problem of the country, I think the cultural and political problems simply get solved with it. As I've said many times, David Breitbart famously said, politics is downstream from culture. I said, E.W. Jackson, not so famously, said that culture is downstream from spirituality. In other words, as a nation's spirituality goes, so goes its culture. And as the culture goes, so goes its politics. So the root from which it all flows is the spirit of the nation, the spirituality of the nation. Righteousness exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people mourn. Right now, we are in a time of rejoicing because we've got leadership that understands the nature of our country, its Judeo-Christian values and foundations. Of course, we have a lot of people in the country, like this Mayor Fry and Governor Walz out there in Minneapolis and Minnesota, who don't care to understand the foundations of the nation. They are simply on a different wavelength. They are Marxists, essentially. They are secularists. They are atheists, practically speaking. I don't know whether they actually believe in atheism or the notion there is no God, but they certainly behave that way. And they certainly don't honor or respect the Judeo-Christian foundations of our country. So for all practical purposes, they are practical atheists, if you will. And so what we've got to do is just keep praying and believing God to get through this period that we are in right now, and hope that we will. This is a time of transitioning into the permanent and predominant embrace of Judeo-Christian values and principles, the foundational principles of the country. That's what we're headed for. That President Trump's presidency and the things that are going on in our culture right now, the awakening that's happening on many college campuses, Turning Point USA. Of course, AFR has been in the forefront of this for a long, long time. The new kid on the block tends to get a lot of attention, but American Family Association and American Family Radio have been here laying a foundation for a long, long time. We've been laying down the ancient landmarks, which many are now coming along and picking up, and thank God for them. I'm glad for it. But
I'll tell you, I think without AFR, without the American Family Association, without Brother Don Wildman, a lot of this stuff that we're seeing now would never have happened, because he really began to pioneer this stuff when almost nobody was talking about it or pointing it out. So praise God for that. I got a couple of things I want to share with you. First of all, let me remind you, by the way, I have a podcast on American Family Radio. I hope you listen to it. It posts every Wednesday morning. So it will be posting, my podcast will be posting tomorrow morning. It's called The Awakening, just like my radio program was called, The Awakening. So check it out, and it's there for 24/7. As Sandy says, once it's posted, it's there, and you can check it out anytime. I also want to remind you, or tell you, actually, because I don't think I've had a chance to announce this, but we have an annual Stand Awards dinner. We honor 4 or 5 patriots for their service to God and to our country. And we've given that award to people like Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin and Jenny Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas, and Ken Blackwell, former mayor of Cincinnati and former Secretary of State for Ohio, and former ambassador under President Ronald Reagan, and Star Parker and Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Dr. King, and a host of other great people we've given it to. And we've got a wonderful lineup coming up for this one on May the 12th, Tuesday, May the 12th, in Tysons Corner, Virginia. So if you're anywhere in the area, or even if you're not, please put it in your schedule, make plans to come. And if you can't come, please pray for us as we plan our biggest event of the year, most important fundraising event of the year, but also just a big operation. We spend several months planning and putting this together, and that process has already begun. So I wanted to let you know about it in advance. No tickets on sale yet or anything like that. When that happens, I'll let you know as I have the opportunity. But it will be posted on standamerica.us, and on all of our other social media. I'll be talking about it. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Now, let's talk a little bit further about what's going on in Minneapolis. First of all, I think that President Trump needs to be given a lot of credit for the fact that he's willing to talk to Tim Walz and talk to Jacob Fry, because I don't think these people deserve to be talked to. But I'm glad that the president is gracious enough to do that. I tell you, I would be struggling with that if I were president and had to talk to them. Because when you call people Nazis and you say that they're the Gestapo, basically what you're doing is subtly calling for them to be killed. I mean, am I out of line to say that? Because what did we do with the Nazis? We killed them. Where we found them. We fought them and killed them. So when you use that kind of incendiary language and you claim that they're out executing people and they're kidnapping people and taking them away to secret locations, I mean, this is complete and utter nonsense. And it is, frankly, it is political malpractice in my view. You're being the very demagogue you're claiming that ICE is. And you look at the people that they are arresting. The people they are arresting are guilty of murders and rapes and robberies and fraud and a whole bunch of other things. Child molestation, child sexual crimes. I mean, these are the worst of the worst, and they're getting them off the streets. And the murder rate, of course, I'm sure you've heard, the murder rate has dropped precipitously. We have the lowest murder rate since 1900, folks. Since 1900. 2025 saw the steepest drop in the murder rate year over year of any in the history of the country. So it's working, because a lot of the people who were committing these crimes in our country were people who shouldn't be here in the first place. And now ICE is getting them out, and the murder rate is dropping. Praise God. You would think that'd be a cause of celebration, but oh, no. Not for Walz and Fry, because for them, the crimes, the criminals are the ICE agents. Not the guys preying on children, killing people, raping women. No, not them. No, not the human traffickers and the drug dealers and the gangbangers. No, they're not the problem. The problem is ICE agents, and you got to get rid of them. I mean, did you hear Gavin Newsom, I think, said that they're going to, was it Gavin Newsom? I think it was Gavin Newsom, who said they're going to deny driver's licenses to anybody they find. Oh, no. That was Eric Swalwell. That was Eric, Betray Your Country with the Chinese maven Swalwell, who said that if he becomes governor of California, he would deny any person who's ever worked for ICE the right to work right to work for California government, and he would deny them driver's licenses in California. These people are just, and here again, they want to claim Donald Trump is some kind of dictator or some kind of tyrant. I mean, that's tyrannical behavior. These people are working, doing legitimate jobs and carrying out legitimate duties for the federal government as ICE agents, immigrations, customs, and enforcement agents. And you're going to deny them a license in your state because of who they work for? Are you kidding me? Now, if you work for an abortion clinic, that's okay. If you've been killing unborn babies, no problem there. It is sheer madness. But again, I'm glad that President Trump has taken the time to talk to these people. In fact, I'm convinced that President Trump is a little bit concerned about the fact that 2 people have been killed. And look, he's president of the United States. He should be in the operations in Minneapolis and Minnesota, but he's continuing the operations nevertheless. Let me just say something about this last situation that the administration is getting a lot of criticism because apparently Bovine and Kristi Noem as well made statements about this guy being a domestic terrorist and that he was out to massacre ICE agents and so forth. And I don't know that there's any evidence to prove that, but at first blush, apparently there may not be, and they spoke a little bit too quickly. But I will say this. When you show up to confront armed agents of the federal government doing a lawfully required, mandated job of apprehending, arresting, detaining, deporting illegal aliens, criminals who are committing terrible crimes and happen to be in the country illegally, and you confront them physically and they know you're armed and they seek to disarm you and you resist, bad things are going to happen. Because if a person is armed and they resist being disarmed by law enforcement, that tells me that their intention is to attack. That's the way I would read that. Because if you don't intend to do anything and you're lawfully carrying that firearm and they say, would you allow us to take that off you? I say, sure, go ahead. Because in the end, I know they're going to have to give it back if I haven't done anything wrong. But when you start fighting them, now my question is, well, if you pull your gun, what's going to happen? And folks, now you shooters know exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you who may not shoot don't, but you shooters know exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't take but a split second for you to be dead. Depending on how fast that person is, and if you're in close quarters, you don't even have to aim. All you got to do is get it out and pull the trigger. Or squeeze the trigger. And you're dead. So what do you do in a situation like that where a person is fighting? You see a movement that looks like they're going for the gun, or looks like they can get the gun. What do you do? Because if you wait 3 seconds, you could be dead in 3 seconds because it only takes a second to pull that firearm. So I certainly hope that, when I hear this stuff, they should have shot the tires out on the truck. He should have shot him in the leg. I mean, I say, boy, ignorance really is bliss, isn't it? Because it doesn't work that way in a dynamic situation. It simply does not. In a situation like that, you have to make a split decision whether it's him or you. And you're not going to get a second chance to make it. And you can't wait till the gun is pointed at you and then say, well, you know what, I think maybe I better do something. It's too late. I'll tell you what I think that the president should have demanded of Walsh and Fry when we come back, because I think even before he talked to them, he should have demanded some concessions from them. And I'll tell you exactly what they are when we come back. This is Bishop E.W. Jackson. I'm in for Abraham Hamilton III here on the Hamilton Corner. Stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a moment.
A Discipleship Minute with Joseph Parker.
How tragic it is when people who say they love Jesus will see the need, see the problems, for whatever reason, pass by on the other side. Sometimes people may think, well, it's not my problem and I don't want to be a victim like he was. Well, that's a wrong perspective. Some may think, well, I'm busy, I've got other things to do. Well, it's easy to say everybody's busy. Everybody has something to do. But by the grace of God, we see where God commended the Samaritan. He too had something to do, but he took time. He made time to stop and help with compassion someone who'd been beat up and left for dead on the side of the road by the world. You and I need to make time to live a life of compassion. We're called to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ in the world. How important it is that we're faithful to do that. This is what we're made for.
It can take more than forgiveness to heal a broken relationship.
Finally, I've forgiven her, but I don't ever want to have anything to do with her again.
When someone has sinned against us and a relationship has been severed, forgiveness is a necessary starting place. That initial act of releasing the offender has to be followed up with a commitment to invest in his or her life. That investment will help us to experience healing and wholeness. Listen to Jesus' words in Luke 6. He said, "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you." Listen, the goal is to rebuild the relationship. And even in situations where it may not be appropriate to reconnect, we can still invest in other people's lives through prayer. What are some practical ways you could return good for evil? Ask the Lord to show you how you can invest in the lives of those who've caused you pain. With Seeking Him, I'm Nancy DeMoss Wolgemuth.
By the grace of God, American Family Association is making a difference.
Bert Harper, co-host of Exploring the Word.
And we want to continue to make that difference. God's called us to it, and we have set our face as a flint like the prophets in the Old Testament to stay true to God and His Word. So I want to encourage you to support the work here at American Family Association.
Contact the AFA Foundation today to learn how you can shore up permanent income for your retirement years while supporting the culture-transforming work of the American Family Association. A charitable gift annuity benefits you and helps ensure the AFA will impact America for generations to come. Call 800-326-4543, extension 345. That's 800-326-4543, extension 345. The AFA Foundation, the Financial Stewardship Division of the American Family Association.
Shining light into the darkness. This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Now, of course, who in the world am I to give advice to President Donald J. Trump? But I do have to point out that I think that Fry and Walsh are not deserving of having a conversation with the President of the United States, not with President Donald J. Trump, unless they do the following. And if I had been, by some miracle of God, become president and faced a situation like this, I would have said, you want to talk to me? You want to try to work this out? I do too. But first, I need you to hold a press conference in which you say to the people of Minnesota and the people of Minneapolis, both of you, you can disagree with my policies all you want, but you need to, A, acknowledge that ICE agents have a statutory responsibility to do what they're doing, and whether you agree with it or not, they are not breaking the law, because the law mandates that they, again, apprehend, arrest, and detain and deport people who are not here lawfully. And the fact that the people that they're focusing on are criminals makes it even more a mandate, because they're really helping every single citizen of the country to be that much safer by getting these bad actors off the street. So you need to acknowledge that. And then secondly, you need to say to the people of Minnesota and Minneapolis, do not use your cars to ram ICE agents. Do not use your bodies, your bikes, bricks, stones, sticks, anything else to get in the way of their carrying out their duty. You can certainly peacefully protest, you can sing, you can march, but you cannot attack them in any way or use any instrumentality, including, by the way, a gun, to attack them. 3, do not take your gun to a protest and get into a confrontation with ICE agents where you are actually physically confronting them and you are carrying a firearm. It will not end well for you. Don't do that. And do not go into a church and interrupt a worship service because you happen not to agree with the pastor, not to agree with the policies of the church, or for any reason at all. You don't have a legal right to do that. And the FACE Act subjects you to severe penalties for doing so. I remember the Biden administration put people in jail under the FACE Act, which also protects churches and houses of worship. That's apparently something they did in order to get it passed because people were very reluctant to agree to somehow this special protection and felt it might not even pass constitutional muster to give this special protection to houses of baby killing and not give those special protection to houses of worship. One, a house of life, the other, a house of death. You're going to protect the house of death, but the house of life, who cares? So they included churches. Well, people who sang, prayed, just sat down peacefully in front of these baby-killing clinics, if you want to call them that. I was going baby-killing factories. These people, some of them were put in jail for, little old ladies in their 70s, put in jail for 11 years in federal prison. So you mean to tell me you can walk into a church and obstruct a worship service under the same act, but somehow, it's no big deal. It's only, as Keith Ellis said, they're practicing their First Amendment rights. Are you kidding me? How about reading the law, buddy? I think President Trump should have exacted from them some requirements, because folks, I've had it with these people saying ICE agents are executing people, they're kidnapping people, they're absconding people away and taking them to secret sites, and I mean this is so ridiculous. They're Nazis, they're Gestapo, and then you want to talk to the president about how we can make things better? Stop making these incendiary statements. That would be a good start. But I'd say, and I don't trust them, even after the president meets with them. I don't trust them because I think these people are fundamentally evil. I really do. I think they are fundamentally evil. They're wicked. In fact, I'd go so far as to say they're demon-possessed. Because they have not ever shown not one iota of sympathy for any American killed by one of these illegal alien murderers and rapists and robbers and child molesters. Not a single expression of sympathy for any of those Americans. But oh my goodness, Abrego Garcia, he's a Maryland man, and the mistreatment that the guy's a human trafficker and a gangbanger. So forget about his victims. Oh, no, they don't matter, but he matters because after all, look, I've said this before, so forgive me for the repetition, but I got to keep driving this point home. None of this makes any sense unless you understand that these people do not care about the human beings involved at all on any side. What they care about is power. And they see these illegal aliens as a pathway to ultimate hegemony over this country, the same way they have it over California. They think they have it over Virginia, but they've got it over Illinois. They've got it over Massachusetts. They've got it over Maine. They've got it over Vermont, and probably a number of other states in the country. And that's what they want for America. That's the dystopia that they want America to become. Frankly, a haven of demons. That's what they want New York to become. A haven of demons, of idolatry. I mean, New York, I think Governor Hochul has already signed euthanasia bill, where he basically, when a person has, I forget what the exact amount of time is left to live, but have so much time, at least the doctor, I think it's 6 months actually, 6 months or less that the doctor gives them to live, they can be prescribed death pills so they can go off and kill themselves. So now they've got every taxpayer complicit in murdering people, because that's what it is. And how many times have we heard stories about somebody given 6 months and they live 6 years, or the disease goes away? I mean, again, but this is what you get when people only care about power and control and manipulation of people. By the way, in the next segment, I'm going to start taking your calls and get your views on this. 888-589-8840. That's 888-589-8840. Let me bring up an entirely different subject, because this one's near and dear to my heart, and I want to also see what you all think. I'm sure you've heard about this missing teen out of New York. Apparently this kid was just, forgive me, folks, I shouldn't say was. I have to tell you, when a kid's been gone this long, I have my doubts. He's been lured through Roblox to go meet somebody. Nobody knows who, nobody knows where, except they think it was in New York City. I have my doubts. I hope that this kid survives, but forgive me, because I was about to talk of him in the past tense, and that's not fair yet. But, we need to be praying for this kid. But he's missing now. Apparently a scholar, outstanding student, athletic, but a small kid. And somebody lured him away, and he hasn't been heard from since through social media. Now, I'm sure you all know that there is a case pending right now. In fact, I think they're about to go to trial, although TikTok has settled this case. This is a class action. Well, I know it's not a class action suit, but it involves a number of defendants, I should say. TikTok has settled, and Snapchat has settled, but YouTube and Meta apparently are going to trial. And this is whether claimed by the plaintiff that these big tech organizations have engineered these algorithms and engineered these products in a way that is intended to addict young people to them, that is intended to take control away from the young person and put it in the hands of the social media giant, and that they intentionally have designed things to achieve that end. That I think they even argued that they borrowed from the cigarette industry in order to help achieve addiction. Of course, this is not physical addiction per se, but the brain is a very powerful tool, folks. And when the brain experiences pleasure doing something, that can be just as addictive, maybe not as physiologically threatening to the life of the person, although in some circumstances we can see in the circumstance with this young boy, it could become life-threatening, but not because you've got your head buried in a screen, but just because of what it does to your ability to function outside of that screen, where people have got to have the phone, they've got to have the screen. And as you all know, some states now are imposing restrictions on how much time a young person can spend with social media. It'll be interesting to see how they enforce that, because the parents are going to really have to be the ultimate ones to determine that. But folks, I'll tell you, I've got 2 young grandchildren now, and I just wonder what in the world their lives are going to be like as they grow up in this increasingly high-tech, screen-dominated virtual reality world. Apparently, Roblox is a virtual reality, a game program or something like that. Now, I don't use it. I'm not that familiar with it. But apparently, it really pulls you in, and some of the kids who use it, they live in it. And this is where predators know that they can meet a lot of kids, and this is not the first time we've seen somebody using Roblox in order to lure a child into a dangerous situation. So we know whoever lured this kid away, whoever that person is evil. Because why would you lure a kid away from its parents and its home, and the kid's been missing now for, I guess, at least a day? Why would you do that? Unless you have nefarious intentions. So I'm curious what you all think. I'm sure many of you have grandchildren, and I'll tell you, they are attracted to these devices. When I visit with my grandchildren, I have my phone out. Oh, man, they want to push those buttons. Well, my grandson is too young yet, but my granddaughter, oh my goodness. I mean, she wants to push those buttons. She wants to look at that screen. She wants to get into it. So, and even, of course, there are very innocent games, because I found a couple for my iPad to let her play with so that she can use the iPad, but she is strictly focused in a game designed for children, which deals with math and science and writing and all that stuff, as opposed to some of these other things. You get these kids scrolling through these YouTube shorts. Some of these shorts are, they're downright dangerous because of the little ideas that they implant in children's minds that children shouldn't have. And then they grow up with this stuff. Oof. Now, I believe that my daughter and husband are quite aware of this and very restrictive. But, the people who invented these things, most of them, I've seen them in interviews say they don't let their children use it. Well, that's telling, isn't it? They do not allow their children to use it. And that tells me that they know something that the world does not know. Because obviously they want everybody else to have their children use it, but they don't let theirs use it. And I think they know it's because they know the power it can exert over the mind of a child. So, and boy, this is one of these areas where, and by the way, Section 230 that protects these big tech firms from liability, this case that is pending right now, about to start the trial, is going to test that proposition. Because you and I know people that rich, that powerful, with these big institutions, you and I know the notion that they are not in control, it's just a platform, and they have nothing to do what's put on. Well, we learned in COVID that's a lie, because they were happy to knock me off and anybody else off who said anything that they didn't like about COVID or anything else. Now, that seems to have been loosening up under President Trump, but we know this idea that, no, we don't have any control over what, oh, no, it's strictly a neutral platform. That is a lie. That is a big, fat, ugly lie, because they use it all the time to promote what they want to promote and to suppress what they want to suppress. So in my view, Section 230 is now obsolete. They need to be held accountable. If they can know to take little old me off because I said something that they didn't like, and therefore I'm suspended, and to do it multiple times, you mean to tell me they don't know what some gigantic game is doing in order and creating the opportunity for adult predators to masquerade as children and prey on them and lure them away? They don't know that? They don't know that child pornography is being used? They don't know that? Give me a break. Give me a break. So as far as I'm concerned, Section 230 needs to go by the boards and just say, look, it really is not a neutral platform. You own it. You control it. Let's stop kidding each other anymore. And what you allow to be on that platform that is deleterious to children and hurts them, or hurts anybody for that matter, you're going to be responsible for. Folks, this is Bishop E.W. Jackson in for Abraham Hamilton III here on the Hamilton Corner. Stand by, coming back to take your calls. 888-589-8840.
America is about to celebrate her 250th birthday. In the beginning of our country, almost all American children were raised with a Christian worldview. That has drastically changed over the last 250 years. What's your opinion on what we can do to restore it? Your thoughts and your support will help us fight for our kids, and we'll give you the DVD Educated for Liberty with Stephen McDowell as our thanks. Visit afa.net/educate today. afa.net/educate.
The Middle East, that's one part of the world we need to pay attention to, especially the country of Israel. Each week, I'll help you make sense of what's happening in that region through a biblical lens. I'll bring you important information about security threats, archaeological discoveries, biblical prophecy, ministries happening on the ground, and much more. I'm John Riley. Join me for the Middle East Report Special Edition every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Central on American Family Radio as I connect you to the people, places, and geography of what we read in God's Word.
If you are 65 or older, you know this, inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and co-payments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now, 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
What if healthcare could be more than bills and bureaucracy? What if it could reflect faith, foster community, and offer spiritual support? At Redeem HealthShare Ministry, the mission goes beyond medical bills. It's about honoring Christ and embracing healthcare that aligns with Christian values. Redeem members share medical expenses through monthly contributions, supporting one another in a Christ-centered community. It's not insurance, it's believers helping believers through financial support and prayer. And Redeem HealthShare provides freedom for members to select the doctors, hospitals, and treatments that are right for them. No networks, no restrictions, just faith-driven care. From everyday checkups to unexpected medical emergencies, Redeem offers flexible programs and encouragement rooted in Scripture. Because your healthcare should reflect your faith, not compromise it. More at redeemhealthshare.org or call 1-844-REDEEM-0.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
The Hamilton Quarter podcast and one-minute commentaries are available at afr.net. Back to the Hamilton Quarter on American Family Radio.
And we're back. I'd like to get your views on anything I've raised or any other issue you'd like to raise. The number is 888-589-8840. That's 888-589-8840. We've got some lines open, but let's get to your calls. Let's go to Iris in Texas. Iris, welcome.
Hi, Bishop. I want to tell you that I admire your courageous stand, what you said about Minneapolis and about what our president should do. I just wish he was listening because I think that would have been a great way to handle it. I'm very disappointed when I heard him talking to the governor and them today. It was disappointing because he should be taking the stand that you suggested, that so many of us patriotic Americans have taken, and got him elected to do that. And there has been a lot of by the lying snake media that have colored the ICE agents as evil when they are doing the work of the Lord, and more important, and doing the work of what the Constitution says. So go for it, and I pray that others will make their opinions knowing on this, because if they don't, we will see this in many other states, and that the Democrats are rejoicing right now for what has happened, and I don't want to see it spread.
Iris, thank you so much for the call. Yeah, look, it's really not rocket science, is it? Because it would be different if these guys had simply said, "Look, you've got a right to protest. We will protect that right, but you don't have a right to engage in lawlessness, and we will not defend that. We will not support that." But all along, they've been saying the very things that have led to all this violence and these attacks on ICE agents. I mean, threats to ICE agents up 8,000% from where they were before President Trump took office and commissioned these ICE agents to actually do their job, which they weren't allowed to do before. 8,000%. Yeah, I'd like to see Fry and Walls held accountable. By the way, not just being required to say to people, stop doing the things you're doing that are not part of peaceful protests, but I think they ought to be looked at in terms of obstruction of justice and obstruction of federal agents in the lawful execution of their duty. So these people need to be put on the hot seat, because I think they, far more than anything else, are responsible for the 2 deaths that have happened so far. Let's go to, I believe that's Tyron in Oklahoma. Do I have it right, Tyron?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to say I agree with what you're saying. But my deal is that Trump had religious advisors, right? But what he didn't take in is that truth has a two-edged sword. It cuts both left and right. And also, when we expose truth to the light, he might have not liked what he saw when we saw what was exposed, because evil people, they love the darkness, and that's what they seeking to. And I think the temptation comes for compromise. And since he is the art of the deal, I think he's wondering what to do, trying to come up with compromise. And also, it's very simple. We're engaged in warfare, and the so-called experts, if you read Romans 1, thinking themselves wise, taking the Bibles out of schools, Christ is the beginning of wisdom. The experts who don't know what a woman is, and they don't know what immunity is, and it's all because of sin, and the love of money has infiltrated, and the end game is to kill, steal, and destroy. And also, they don't like the Bible because the Bible has logic in it, it's the beginning of wisdom. And also, they took it out because it's faith. We come from hearing through the word, faith from hearing to the word, so they took it out of school because they don't want our faith to increase. They want to listen to them. And in the Garden of Eden, what was attacked was faith, and he said, did God say what we want to say? We want to be God to put faith in ourselves instead of in God.
All right, Tyron, I've got it. But listen, thank you so very much for the call. I appreciate it. I think I understand, excuse me, folks. I think I'm clearing my throat there a little bit. I think I understand what you meant when you said what's being exposed. These videos, as we all know, can show you some things. They can't show you everything. And so there needs to be a thorough exposition of what actually happened. And I think that's what we would all want. Keeping in mind always that the standard is not perfection. The standard is what would a reasonable person do under the circumstances. In circumstances where you have to make a split decision over someone pointing a car at you, or making a split decision over someone who is armed with a 9mm pistol, who is refusing to allow themselves to be disarmed by police. Those are not easy situations where you don't get to go home and sit down and think about it for several hours and then come back and finish the process. I mean, it is right there in your face, and it is do or die. But again, the people who put themselves in these situations, why would you think that any confrontation, any physical confrontation with a police officer, with a law enforcement officer, is going to end well for you? It's not. Now, one would hope that you wouldn't necessarily have to be killed in the process, but you would have to expect that you could be severely injured and maybe even killed, depending upon the threat that you seem to pose to that officer at the time. So, these folks, Walls and Fry, in my view, bear the brunt of the responsibility for setting the atmosphere that has caused these things to happen, not the ICE agents who simply like to do their jobs. And what about trying to break into the hotel where the ICE agents are resting? I mean, what is this, the Wild Wild West? Bring them out here, we're going to hang them whether you like it or not. I mean, what is that all about? And again, why don't the mayor and the governor say, hey, folks, we will not tolerate that. You are destroying private property, and you are putting these people who are Americans and human beings and doing a job, you are putting them in fear of their lives when you do things like that, and we're not going to stand with that. We're not. But they say nothing. But the moment something happens, it's just like the whole George Floyd thing. It's just like the police brutality thing. You can call police pigs. You can spit in their faces. You can throw rocks at them. You can shoot at them. You can try to run them over with a car. But the moment something happens where a police officer defending his or her life ends up hurting or killing somebody, oh, boy, it's the end of the world now. We told you they're a bunch of racists. But never any concern for how they put their lives on the line trying to protect themselves, their fellow officers, and civilians. 888-589-8840 is the number. Let's come back to the calls. Let's go to Roy in Mississippi. Roy, how's the weather where you are?
It's cold, brother. How about you?
Yeah, it's cold here too.
I just wanted to say thank you because you're the first one I've heard say it in such conviction. But those two people who were killed in Minnesota, if the government of Minnesota would have cooperated like they're supposed to start with, those two people would still be alive. They would still be alive. But because they pushed their rhetoric and they pushed their opinion of what ICE and what President Trump is and all this, it's riled the people up. And to me, I think they're responsible for those two deaths.
Yeah, I agree with you, Roy, and thank you so much for the call. Look, I've said when you call people Nazis and you say they're the Gestapo and they're executing people and they're kidnapping people off the street and they're taking them to secret sites, when you say things like that, to me, that is code language for you to do whatever you think you need to do to them because these people are committing, this is Tim Walz's word, atrocities. Atrocities. Now, the true Nazis committed atrocities. These ICE agents aren't committing any atrocities. I mean, are you kidding me? But you're right. When you say things like that, to me, that is code language for by any means necessary. Stop them because what they're doing is evil. And again, they need to be held accountable for that. Okay, let's come back to your calls. Let's go to Samuel, also in Texas. Samuel, welcome.
Hey, good morning or good evening there, Bishop. You know, I have one word for a good noun for Governor Waltz and then the Mayor Fry, and that is culpability. Because with their rhetoric and everything they've been saying and about resisting ICE and everything else, they are ultimately responsible for these unfortunate individuals like the woman who tried to use the car and got killed as a result, the guy who recently just got shot because he had a weapon, and apparently he was about a week or so ago, he was interfering with ICE again, and during that time, he was blocking roads and everything beforehand, and he lost his life. And even for the two women, one woman bit off the finger of one of the ICE agents, and another woman bit ICE agents on the hand as well. They are responsible for that felonies, for obstructing justice, all this so-called protest, which in reality is not the type of thing covered under the Constitution and the First Amendment, because it's not peacefully assembling. They're blocking roads. They're interfering with agents doing their jobs. They're putting them in risk. And then not just that, but most cities have laws against certain noise at a certain time of night. And guess what they're doing? They're sitting there. They're making all this noise in the hotels when the ICE agents are trying to sleep. So they've already escalated the situation, because every time they go somewhere, they've been bombarded with a bunch of people interfering. They're trying to sleep, and it's already stressful. So they're culpable, and I believe that they should be held responsible. Now, I do agree that I do think that President Trump, being a leader, that for him to reach out and talk to them was nothing wrong with that per se. We don't know what the conversation was all about, but in the same vein, I believe that was responsible to do that, because all they're going to do, if he were to send troops in or whatever, says the Insurrection Act, they'll just spin that up to make it something. See, we told you we want to be a tyranny. He was a tyrannical guy, and that's all they would be doing. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, and thank you for everything you've been doing.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for the call. Yeah, I don't disagree that he should have talked to them. I don't disagree with that at all. But I just think he should have made them make some concessions, because they need to acknowledge the fact that they have spun this stuff up themselves. And you're right. These are not peaceful protests. This is mob violence is what it is. Imagine yourself sleeping in a hotel and you got people outside the hotel trying to break in to get you. They're not just interfering with your sleep, brother. They're interfering with your peace of mind, with your sense of safety, because you think, well, if they do get through and they spot me, what would they do? Well, worked up like that, who knows what they would do? But I don't think it would be good. So thank you for the call, Roy. But I agree with you. I think ultimately talking to them is not a problem, but they need to be held accountable too. All right, let's go to Joe in Ohio. Joe, welcome. Almost out of time, Joe, but you may be the last one, but good to have you.
All right. Thank you, Bishop, for all that you and Abraham do. And thank you to all the DHS agents, if they're listening, for all they do to keep us safe. Your last two callers nailed it. I think these paid protesters are a big distraction from the major fraud that is occurring in Minnesota. You know, easily $9 billion to $18 billion in fraud. And I think they're paying these protesters to take the light off of that and give them time to clean up whatever fraud they can. And I think the swamp in Minnesota goes pretty deep, and they've got a lot of these officials paid off. There's stories that they, people are going through the Minnesota airport with one-way tickets out of the country with suitcases and briefcases just full of millions of dollars in cash. And the rank and file TSA agents would stop them, and then the TSA supervisors would let them go. So I think the swamp is deeper in Minnesota than we realize. I think it's deeper in Washington, D.C., obviously. And I think once they get into the bigger places, the Illinois and California, if it's $9 to $18 billion in Minnesota, it's probably $90 to $180 billion in Illinois and California.
All right, Joe. Thank you for the call. We're out of time. Look, that situation is a mess. Ilhan Omar is being investigated by the Justice Department, because I'm sure you all heard the stories. I mean, she literally, from 1 year to the next, went from being worth, I don't know, some thousands of dollars to being worth millions of dollars. How did that happen? All right, folks, it's been great to be with you as always. Thank you all so much. God bless each and every one of you. I've been in for Abraham Hamilton III. I'm sure he'll be back shortly. But right now, I say Stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.